Hi guys!
Hello.
Welcome to Etta, Arlene Spiritcast. If you're new to this podcast, we talk about all things related to mindfulness, magic, astrology, tarot, Reiki, meditation, anything in that realm. And today is really fun because we're talking about relationships. And in particular, we're talking about twin flames, karmic bonds, and soulmates. And we have our beautiful, amazing cousin on who actually has experience in these types of relationships to outline it for us and discuss it and talk about her story and how those types of relationships help our soul evolution. But before we get into it, do you want to tell everybody where they can follow us at?
So you can follow us on Twitter at edpro_PGH. We tweet a lot. You can follow us over on Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, Tumblr. And now we're on TikTok at Arlene. And then you can go to our website and sign up for our email list and get a free Reiki session every month. We also post Reiki infused videos to YouTube almost every single day. So you can go over there and sign up for that as well.
All right. And then, we're candle makers, make candles. We'll have a link down below for that. They're pretty awesome. Smell great. We also have a book. So if you like our tweets, you can check out our book, and we're working on our new books. I said multiple because we're going to probably release a couple at once. Yep. And,
that's how we roll. It's how we do. We go all in, go big.
Yeah. So if you want to check out our first one, that will be linked down below as well. If you're not familiar, which I'm sure a lot of you guys listening are familiar with twin flames or, soulmates. Everybody's heard soulmates, and karmic bonds. We'll just give you a little refresher before we get into it, and then we'll let Lyndsy explain the rest. But a twin flame is basically somebody that you're very deeply connected with at a soul level. It's very fiery and passionate, and then you have like soulmates, and they're often associated with stability, and karmic bonds are very passionate as well, but they're a little bit tougher. So the two more challenging relationships are going to be your twin and your karmic relationships. So back to twins, basically it's one soul split into two different bodies, and there's this like magnetism because you want to be back together. And it is often confused with a karmic relationship because they're both like very intense. It's just that twins are slightly different, and twins are noted for helping you with your soul. They can trigger your like awakening, and they help you with spiritual growth and stuff like that. And then your karmic bond is going to either be a person that owes you or you owe them a karmic debt from a previous life, or it's somebody that, like a soul you've agreed to work with, and they help pull out wounds. Once they help you with that karmic, pay that karmic debt or whatever it is, that relationship typically like ends. So they're like short, like passionate. From what I understand, they might be longer. I'm just summing it up really fast, but a karmic one will be very passionate, really intense, and then you're going to pay off these karmic debts, learn these karmic lessons, and then move on. And then like soulmates are the most stable out of all of them. So we're not saying that you wouldn't like marry your twin or your karmic bond or anything like that. They're just going to be a more challenging relationship because they're trying to force you to like grow at a soul level. And a soulmate is going to also help you evolve spiritually, of course. But your soulmate can be anyone from a family member to a friend to a romantic relationship, and they're just a little bit more chill. So that's pretty much what the differences are between the three of them, like really fast. But we're going to have Lyndsy really go into depth, and she's going to tell us her story and everything in this episode. So, I'm pretty excited for it.
Yeah, it's really good. Her story is like a movie. It's something else. And then we also mentioned a couple movies that mirror like the twin flame relationship situations in the podcast as well. So get ready for a very riveting tale of a love.
Of love, yes. Oh my goodness, she should write a book. She could write a book about it. That's why she was telling me that a lot of popular movies and stuff, like we were talking before, a lot of songs are twin relationships. We have this like obsession with that like dynamic because it's interesting, it's passionate and everything.
Who doesn't love a passionate love story? Come on. I do. I'm so fun with this. Yeah, I mean, come on. Her story is just it's I can't wait for you guys to listen to it.
Yeah.
And be cool. Like I want to get more people to tell me tell us their stories too. You know, off the top of my head, I can think of a couple people that we know that are possibly in twin dynamics, but it's cool. I mean, everybody wants to be in love, so come on.
Yeah, there you are. So we're gonna play this Anchor ad and then have Lyndsy take over.
Here's a quick note from one of our sponsors, and then we'll get into today's awesome episode. If you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, let me give you a rundown. Basically, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Here's how it works.
Anchor lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so no matter what your setup is like, you can start creating today.
Then you can distribute your podcast on those popular listening platforms, including Spotify, with a single tap. Anchor is also the only place you can publish video podcasts to Spotify.
With Anchor, creators can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. And best of all, Anchor is totally free.
Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
All right, we're back, guys, and this is our cousin Lyndsy with us, as we stated in the intro, and we're so excited to have her on. She is also a fellow mystic, and she's here to talk about twin flames and whatever else we decide to talk about. So, Lyndsy, do you want to tell them a little bit about yourself, about like your spiritual journey, before we get into the twin stuff?
So, hi, everyone, first of all. My spiritual journey, I believe, honestly, started before I was even born. So I'm biracial, and I was born in the late 80s, and my mother, who is Italian, father was not happy about my mother being with my father. It was something that he was raised to think wasn't right for races to mix. As many of us know, here in 2021, we're still dealing with racial tension and everything else, but things are a lot better, thank God. In the 80s, and in my traditional Italian family that my mother grew up in, that just wasn't something that you did. And my mom was raised in a very conservative family, and they were by the books. Her parents were very judgmental. They had a plan for their only daughter. She was the only daughter out of three sons, one daughter, their only daughter. So they had all the hopes and dreams for her, and it wasn't to be with a black man, we'll just say, unfortunately. But my mother, she always marched at her own beat, and I believe she was also definitely, I know she's an old soul. And she was born into a family that was very straight-laced, and everybody followed toe, and she never did, from what I understand, from the day she was born. And they resented her whole life for that, and that was her journey, up until when she was a teenager, and she decided that, you know what, I'm not gonna live under this life anymore. I'm not gonna be told how to think or how to feel. And she rolled out as soon as she graduated from high school at 17 and went to be a hairdresser. And she went down and she worked in the city. She grew up in the suburbs, white picket fence, all white neighborhood, one black kid in her whole school. And she moved down to East Liberty, which is like a very mixed neighborhood in Pittsburgh, and decided, she was going to live her life the way she wanted to live and date who she wanted to date. And she didn't care what her family had to say about it. So make a long story short, she ended up getting with my father, and her father said, if you're going to be with him, we're done. You consider yourself gone from the family. And my mother and my father, my mother had such a love for my father. She saw past anything that she was raised to think, I've known people in my own life who had parents like that, and oftentimes they decided to go with what their parents said, no matter if they love that person or not, because that's what they are going to do, because this is what my mom and dad want me to do. So I want everything to just be status quo. So I'm just going to live status quo. Well, that wasn't my mother. She decided that, she was going to live her life and love the person that she loved. Well, I honestly believe that my mom and dad are twins. To give a little background on my father, he's also very, I believe, an old soul as well. And he didn't have as much heat on his side of the family but he did have a lot, because once again, it was the 80s and race mixing was just not something that was very common at the time. So, they chose love over what society had to say, what anybody had to say about it. They didn't care. They were like, we love each other and nothing else matters. And that's where I came from. And as far back as I can remember, as far as my own life, my mother would tell stories about how even before I can remember, I would say things that a normal 2-year-old should never say or would never know. I would say phrases from like different time periods that, for example, a story she would tell was, I was 2 years old at my grandfather's funeral and I ran over. She said I had a little blue dress on to her and my grandmother. And I said, I just saw Grandpap on the other side of the fence. And my grandma said, on the other side of the fence? I didn't know this. You guys probably don't know this, but that's an old phrase they use like in the 20s or 30s to say somebody went on the other side. They went to the other side of the fence.
Oh my goodness.
My mom said another story would tell. One day I was sitting there, I guess, and she was having a hard day. She said I was like about 3 or 4 years old. And I said, Mom, when are you going to realize people are people? And she was like, where did this child come from? Right? So as far back as I can remember, her and my dad, I know I was their only child. I'm still their only child. So yes, they were obsessed with me in a way, I guess. But they would always be like, did this child come from? As far back as I can remember, that's what my parents were saying. Where the hell did you come from? You're an old soul, And, now looking back, now that I'm now 32, so, now looking back on my life, like my first memories are probably like around 4 or 5. And I always was attracted to talking to anybody, but especially older people who were much older than me, like 60, 70, 80 years old. I could just sit down and have a conversation with a person of that age at 5 or 6. I was always like well beyond my age, it seemed. So, growing up, as far as that goes, wouldn't say that I really understood the depth of my soul or spirituality fully at that point. I went to go to elementary school. The district I lived in, my parents didn't really like, and I was baptized Catholic. My mother and father weren't practicing. My mother was raised Catholic, traditional, go to church on Sunday and do everything that you're supposed to do as a Catholic. She rebelled against that as well because of, a lot of the hypocrisy and racism and everything else that runs through the Catholic Church and did at the time even more, and was just not for her. So she was more of a spiritual hippie type person, kind of like how I am now. But they decided to send me to Catholic school. Well, when I went there, I had a gravitation towards Mary, especially, just faith and the hymns. And I would come home and I would sing I would be in my room with the hymn book. My parents would be outside on the porch doing whatever they're doing. And I'm in my bedroom, 7, 8 years old, singing hymns, just feeling connected to the divine, not really knowing, but just feeling at home, in that area. So I went to Catholic school till 8th grade, ended up going to public high schools, continued after being able to like drive and everything. I would actually go to mass sometimes on Sunday by myself. I was never raised to go to mass or anything. It was just, I just felt at home there. But to give a little background about me as far as being a teenager and relationships, because that's what we are here to talk about today. I always had this, as far back as I can remember, just feeling that I would meet that person and whoever that person was, and that would be the person, and I would be with them. And when I was young, I thought, oh, by the time I'm like 23, I'll be married. Or, you have your ego and you have all the reasons because, well, my mom was married by this age and this person was married by this age, so that's what I'm going to do. And you have all these thoughts, but I dated when I was in high school, but I always had a weird feeling that no matter who I was with, that something was missing. Like, I would really like them. I'd be like really excited to get with them, and then we'd get together and they'd be cute and they'd be everything that I wanted, and it would just feel like I don't really want to be here, like inside. And honestly, I started to question my sexuality at one point.
Wow.
I remember I was probably like 16 or 17. I started to question my sexuality because I was like, do I not really like boys? Like, is that why I feel empty? But,
Yeah.
you know, I grew up always being attracted to men since I could remember. Since I was a little girl, I had a boyfriend in kindergarten, you know, a little boy that I hung out with that lived across the street. I called my boyfriend. And I was loved like the little teeny bopper boys, and Leonardo DiCaprio was my husband. Like, we were having children together. We had a whole plan. Like, that's who I thought. Maybe that's what it was. I was holding on for Leonardo. I don't know.
The bar was really high.
No, baby Leonardo. I'm talking about like Leonardo in Growing Pains, and then Leonardo in Titanic just took me to a whole other level. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, Titanic Leo. I always think about the Romeo and Juliet Leo.
Oh, Romeo and
Juliet Leo. Yes.
Yeah.
And then all the Twin Flame movies, but that's a whole nother. I don't know. Maybe that. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do that segment. At some
Yeah, we'll
point
get
in
into
that.
that. But
I'm curious. Yeah.
my point is, sure, I thought women were beautiful. We all do, probably, right? You know, I thought that women were amazing and beautiful, but did I ever have a sexual thought about one? No. You know? Mm-hmm. So, but I just didn't know why I felt so empty, right? What is wrong with me? Because I just feel like everybody else can be in a relationship and they're all happy and they're like, yes. And, you know, I would date for a little while and I'd break up. And then I'd go to the next one, and I'd hope that maybe this one, you know, he looks more like my type, and he has this. So, and I would also always have this feeling where, like, I didn't want to get trapped with somebody. So I didn't lose my virginity until I was like 19 years old, because I was like, I don't like you. I don't want to get pregnant and have to be with you. Like, that was a real fear. Like, because I just knew, first time I have sex, I'm getting pregnant. Like, I had a feeling.
American.
Yeah, sex ed 101.
Yeah. You know? So, like, as soon as it would start to get to that point, too, I'd be like, all right, see you later. Like, I'm not marrying you. You're not it. Like, I don't know who you are, but you aren't that person. So I'm not about to get stuck with you. And I didn't really realize, you know, what I was doing, but that's what I think I was doing, you know, in an unconscious level at that point. So at about 19, I got into like a pretty abusive situation. I got with somebody, you know, he had money, he was older, he was in the military, he had his own place. And, you know, it was more like, I would say, pretty much a party thing, to be honest, you know, I was in that age where you wanted somewhere to party and you lived at home. So it was missing with him too, you know, it was just a fun time, but it was abusive and bad, and I ended up losing my virginity to him, but it was just, I felt empty. And I think even then again, I might have questioned my sexuality, because I was like, what is this what I waited for? You know, like, is this it? Right? So it was the beginning of 2009. I had broken up with that abusive boyfriend, and I was just hanging out with friends, and we were partying. I was working at a restaurant at the time, and we went out one night to a friend's house, and there was some other people there, and I ended up running into who I now consider my divine masculine, who I actually knew from the past because he dated a friend of mine's sister. You know, like I said, at this time I'm 20. When I had first met him the first time, I was about 16. I just had a mutual party, and, you know, and I wasn't even thinking of him in that way. But I do remember seeing him and being slightly intrigued by him for some reason, I guess, if I look back, but also thinking he's grown and he's with somebody that I know's sister, right? So, yeah. So fast forward, I'm 20 years old, yeah, and I see him again, and we start talking, and he lets me know that he's not in that relationship anymore, and I'm just talking about, you know, what I've been through, and we were having a great time that night, all of us, and I just had a really weird feeling inside, and and the thing is he's not my type. Not that he's not attractive. He's very attractive, a very attractive person, but was not my type. But for some reason, I was very intrigued by him. But I didn't think much into it. And about a week later, he sent me a message, and it's going to age me, on MySpace. And just a little hello, hi. And I was actually surprised because I figured I was thinking about him a lot more than he was thinking about me, because we were just all hanging out with friends, and I just didn't think that he was thinking about me in that way, because I was thinking about him in just a strange way. Like I had this strange, like, I don't want to say obsession, but sort of, with somebody who you didn't even do anything with, or and like I said, I never could even feel that way about somebody who I thought I had all the stuff in common with and was my type. And I'm like feeling like butterflies and weird about somebody who not my type, probably not something I should even get involved with. And yeah, so he reaches out to me and says hello. And that's it. And I say hello back. And, I want to say it was a couple months later, we all went out again because he was friends with a mutual friend. And he was at the same bar that I was at. And I remember that night is definitely the night that changed everything, because I remember looking across the bar at him and just being drawn to looking at, like, I couldn't, like, and I remember him looking back at me with, like, the same look in his eyes. And it was just, like, a familiar look. It was just something I can't explain. Like, we were just looking at each other in a bizarre way. And I walked outside to take a phone call, and I turned around after I hung up, and he was behind me. And we ended up kissing. And from that moment on, I'll pretty much say my entire life changed.
Wow.
It sounds like a movie.
Yeah.
Number one, sounds like a movie.
Sounds like a movie. And I heard that happens with twins, that it, like, you don't understand why you're having thoughts about that person. Like, I don't want to say obsessive, but like something, like you meet them and they just like will not get off of your mind. That's so interesting.
It's true. Yeah. I think I'm currently dealing with a possible twin.
Oh, really?
He who shall not be named, because he might listen to this podcast.
Well, all that is, I'm praying for you, if that is true.
Oh, wow.
And I mean that truly.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, goodness.
Will you tell our listeners what a twin flame relationship is? And then I want to ask you about karmic bonds and soulmates. But can you define twin for our listeners?
So the ultimate thing that twin flames is unconditional love. True unconditional love is what twin flames define. That would be the number one word that would come to me next to twin flames. But what is a twin flame is that whether you're I'm sure a lot of you who are listening to this have heard about twin flames and know some things about twin flames. So there's always a masculine and a feminine. Well, yes, I am divine feminine in my relationship, and he is the divine masculine in our dynamic. But in everybody's dynamic, it's not the same. It could be same sex. One person is still the divine masculine, though, and one person is the divine feminine. And the only reason why there's even to put a gender on it, because I hate to do it, but it's really more of a yin and a yang, if you want to say, than it is a gender, which is still a gender's yin and yang, So there's always one or the other. So what am I getting to? So it's two parts of one soul is what a twin flame is. You're really one soul, but you incarnate it as two until you're finally able to join together and form one soul. And then that's when you're able to be released into the next, wherever that may be, wherever you may believe. So that's basically, I would say, sums up what a twin flame is. People have to stop romanticizing it. It's a great thing. I mean, because you're learning unconditional love and teaching other people unconditional love. So of course it's good, but it's not for everybody, and it's not to be romanticized either.
Wow. So Lyndsy, a lot of people will confuse relationships that they have that can be toxic or abusive with twin relationships. Can you elaborate on that and like clarify it a little bit for our listeners?
So yeah, definitely. That's a very important thing to touch on. And a twin flame relationship should never have abusive dynamics. to it. Verbal abuse, mental abuse, manipulation, physical abuse. If you are in a relationship that consists of any of those things, it is not a twin flame relationship. The only form of abuse, quote unquote, that you would ever feel in a twin flame relationship is abandonment. But really, that is your own fear of abandonment that is being brought up. Because if you know that your other person is walking away because they need to heal, or because them being around you is not for the greater good at the moment, you should have an inner knowing that that's the reason and be able to let them walk away. And that's where you eventually get to. But at first, you're going to feel abandoned. And to some people, that feels like abuse. But that's not the purpose. The purpose of it is for you to realize that you have abandonment issues and you have a fear of being alone. And ultimately, a fear of being alone is lack of self-love. So that's another thing a lot of people get confused about, and I'm just going to touch on it real quick, is you might meet your twin flame in this life, sure, but it doesn't mean that you're going to get together with your twin flame in this life. Because if you have more lives to live, I know for sure that we've been together in other lives. Now, at my point in my life and where I'm at in my spiritual journey, I know that we've been many lives together before. And I believe, and I've been believing for a while, with him aside, that this is one of my last lives, if not my last life, because I have a feeling in my soul, and I don't mean this in a negative way at all, but it's sort of like a tired feeling, I would say, or just that I've been here for a long time, just like my mother always said from day one. So I know that this is one of my last incarnations, but if it's not, we might not end up together in this life. And that's what I think a lot of people kind of get twisted sometimes. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, the twin flame relationships go into each lifetime. So you could have like unfinished business, right? And then it could carry out in the next life.
Definitely.
Okay. Wow. This is funny. I was talking to somebody recently and they were saying how like our souls can choose to incarnate on other planets. So it's funny that you're saying you think it's your last one here because you might just be done with this, like with this Earth plane.
Yeah, it's possible. I know. I don't think I'm coming back in the United States of America. Not after 2020. That's for sure. I better not. No, I love my country. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I'll try Europe. You know.
I wouldn't mind going to Italy.
Right.
Oh, dear. Do you? Oh, go ahead.
No, it's interesting. It's like that. Your story is like an undeniable connection that you can't explain. But it's the like obsessive thoughts, like without having any type of relationship prior to that, which is intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that right now, and why a lot of us why we're probably even having this podcast today, I do think that there's a collective amount of people coming together, incarnating as twin flames right now in this period. And from everything I've researched and everything that I've learned to understand of it comes in waves. So there's like a first wave, and there's going to be a first wave and a second wave and a third wave. It's very possible that you could be on this journey. It's very possible. My other cousin definitely absolutely is. And I don't want to put her whole business out there, but I believe she's the masculine and her masculine is the feminine in her situation. So, I mean, there's lots of twins definitely here in this life right now because we have a mission. I really believe that it's because we have a mission. And the mission is love. It's unconditional love.
Wow.
And the more that incarnate and activate, that's more love energy that's raising the frequency of the planet. So that makes complete sense. The more unions, because I've done a little bit of research on this, because I think that I'm currently dealing with one, possibly, or I just have a mega crush on this dude and have for a grippy. Either or. But I think I'm also dealing with some possible soulmates too. But
Absolutely.
Who knows?
Possible.
So can you explain like the difference between soulmate connection and a twin flame connection?
So soulmate connections, in my experience and from all my research and from everybody that I've spoken to that's on this journey and has lived through this journey, soulmate connections are actually much easier, much smoother. Soulmate connections are more like that perfect person for you, sort of. It just clicks right away, and everything's kosher, but do you really force each other to grow, though? Or are you just kind of stagnant, living kind of good, but are you spiritually growing with that person? Soulmate connections are usually way less, or not usually, absolutely are way less painful than a twin flame connection is ever going to be, because the whole purpose of a twin flame connection is to bring up old wounds and to heal them. And bringing up old wounds is not something a lot of people can do.
So the twin flame forces you to heal, forces you to deal with...
Forces you to heal because you mirror your person.
Oh my goodness. You're reflecting back at them.
The things that you don't like or so on and so forth.
Correct.
Wow. And that's why your soul would split like that, to force you to grow.
And if you don't learn those lessons in this lifetime, it can carry on into the next.
Correct. You're getting it. Absolutely.
Oh. The plot thickens.
Oh
The
my
plot-
god.
My possible twin flame journey plot thickens.
Yes.
Okay. Have you heard of the karmic bonding? Have you heard of karmic bonds?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, what's that in connection with all of this? How does that...
I mean, karma is one of the biggest hardships that you'll suffer through when it comes to the twin flame connection. And karmic bond, it's because they're the ones that complicate. It's the karmic people. It's the karmic behaviors. It's the karmic thought. That's what comes between you and your twin.
Well, I was going to say about karmic relationships. Because that's the thing, too.
Yeah.
So you have your twin relationship. You have your soulmates, which can be just friends or romantic partners. And then you have the karmic relationships.
Yes.
And then you can also have the false twins, right? Isn't that correct?
Correct. They're not really false. I think more like they put you on, they get you in a mind frame for your real twin flame.
I
kind of like that. It's not that they're fake. It's that they ease you in to the journey.
Oh, wow. What are signs that you're in a twin relationship?
It's painful.
I'm sorry. Maybe laugh. It's not funny at all.
She just busted out laughing. That's horrible.
It's okay. It's all right. We're all. If you don't cry,
I wasn't expecting you to have so much passion in that voice when you said painful. Like you could really feel it. You could hear it.
Oh, it's extremely passionate. Remember when we talked about the yin and the yang?
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't figure out that I was in a twin flame relationship until about 5 years into the relationship. So when it first began, after that night, that fateful night that I spoke about, where everything, like I said, changed. At this point, after that, we just had this magnetic, overwhelming attraction. I know now from speaking to him about how he felt in the beginning, that magnetic obsessive thing went after we actually kissed and took it to that, it totally just became beyond obsessive, I would say at that point. Just totally overwhelmed both of us. Once again, like I told you, could never have a feeling, right? Now it's like totally all the way, everything. I'm sick in love, already. Like, I've known this person, I'm sorry, here goes my dog. I've known him, I felt like I knew him for 1,000 years. He was so familiar. And I know that he felt the same about me. It just felt like we were always together. Like that there was never a time in our 20 years and his almost 30 years that we weren't even part of each other's lives. That's how it felt. It just felt like we'd always been together in a way. And then it was great. And it was intense, and it was the most amazing thing in the world. And then something came down, and changed. And he ran. I don't know if he was the first one to run. Probably, And at this point, I didn't have much experience in anything as far as relationships or anything goes. And I was just totally soul shattered. I had this So I finally get this feeling, and he's running from it. Or he's I didn't know what he was doing at the time. He doesn't feel the same, I guess, I thought, And oh my God. And I was devastated. Then, time passed, and we saw each other again, and we would start the cycle again. And it went on like that for about 5 years. We would be off again, on again. I would run, he would run. At the time, yes, we both have karmics. I have karmic family members. We have not only karmic other love relationships, what should we say, romantic relationships. We have karmic family. We have karmic friends, karmic habits, karmic mind frames, like I said, thought processes that came in between. It would be so intense that I would just freak out and be like, this is too much, and, break up with them or whatever, however I had to do it. Usually for me, it was like to be mean and make him run, but it's still me running. If you make somebody run, you're still running. So that went on for about 5 years until it hit just like a really big, we really, 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 really hit a wall. At the risk of not putting every single personal detail out there, we really just hit a major wall. It was no more back and forth. It was big, and I was like, you know what? I am absolutely done with this. I wasted my time. I can't believe that this even. I'm just disgusted, And we totally separated. We blocked each other from everything. It was over. And I grieved it like he died. I was so shattered. It was, but in that, I hit rock bottom, and something one night told me, I was flicking through Netflix, and The Secret came up, and I was like, what's this about? So I put that on. And instantly I had a shift just in the way I was feeling, and just, with the whole, a lot of you know what The Secret is, of course, and, positive mind and how you create your own life with your thoughts. And I never really had that processed, never really thought along those lines. But then when I would look back, I was like, oh my God, all the things I manifested throughout my life, I realized, that I'd always been powerful. And so I really, at this point, just really got into my spiritual journey, because that was really the only way that I could even be okay, because I was just so messed up, we'll say. And I would reach out to different psychics, and I remember I reached out to the psychic, and we just really connected, and it was like over the phone, but it was only supposed to be for I think I paid for a half an hour, but we talked. She ended up calling me back. I think we might have talked for 4 or 5 hours in total. She just couldn't stop talking. And in this, she told me that I was a twin flame. She was like, he's your twin for sure. And at this point, I had no idea what a twin flame even was. I had no idea what she was even talking about, to be honest. So after we had our session, and I got off, and I got on the computer, and I looked up twin flame, and I said, oh my God. It was like every single thing that they could say about it was us.
You were talking about the runner-chaser dynamic, and that's a key point of the twin flame journey, is the running and the chasing.
Yes.
So the twins trade off like that, and it's a cycle.
Correct. In order to make the other person grow.
Oh, because if it never would have happened the way it did, he wouldn't have had that large awakening, right?
Yeah, it triggers progress. It triggers evolution in the person.
Correct. Because you're so hurt at such a deep level, and the love that you had with a person is so strong that it forces you, yes, just like you say, to grow. Yes.
Wow. But it hurts.
but it fucking hurts.
But yeah, the runner-chaser dynamic is very interesting. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the runner just as painful. Both are painful. Mm-hmm. From what I understand, from what I've spoken to with my own twin, from what I've spoken to, like I said, I have a family member who is a female who is the runner. Mm. And it hurts just as bad for them to run. They don't want to run. When you run and when I run, you don't want to run, but you're running from yourself. Oh. You are running from yourself because you don't want to heal. So you'd rather just be in a regular soulmate relationship, which is easier because you don't have to heal.
Mm. Oh, but you have to keep in mind you were like incarnated to heal, right, from your twin relationship.
Right.
Okay. And that's why you always come back together.
Oh, wow.
Which is interesting. Mm-hmm. But there's a certain point on the journey, if I'm not mistaken, that you get tired of the running and the chasing.
You do.
And if you don't, like, some people will make the choice to leave that in next life.
Or do they reconcile? Is that how it works? Like, either you choose to reconcile and deal with it, or you choose to separate?
Well, I'll be honest with you. We're in separation right now.
Wow.
We are in separation right now, and I am tired.
Yeah,
and
so is he. But
it's hard.
Yeah,
it's not for everybody. It's for sure.
No, not for everybody.
And that's why people probably opt for the soulmates or.
Exactly, it's much easier.
Yeah, but not everybody has a twin, right? Or does everybody have a twin? Everybody has a soulmate.
Everybody has a soulmate. Yeah. I don't think everybody's a twin. You know, everyone shouldn't want to be. Yeah. I think that's where it gets somewhere crossed. And that's what I think the point I want to come across the most. It's like, if it's supposed to be for you, then, like I said in the beginning, I'll pray for you because you're going to need them. You're going to need all the prayers you can get if that's really the journey you're on. Will it be fulfilling? Will you have amazing passion? Will you have great days and everything? Yes. But be ready. Buckle up.
It's like the highs and the highs and the lows of the lows. It's
wow, that's how it sounds.
So it sounds like when it's up, it's up.
Back to the yin and yang.
Wow. There's like that passion behind it, and I can see how we can get obsessed with the idea of twin relationship. Like you mentioned in media, like when we were briefly talking about Romeo and Juliet. What are like other examples of like that type of dynamic in our media?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's where it gets really interesting to me as well. And, I'm not sure why. I guess I am sure because everything comes out in art. And ultimately, someone's writing those movies and someone's writing those books. And it's art, And to me, art is divine. And I'm sure you guys agree with me because I know you're artists. And so art comes from the divine. Absolutely. So, obviously, this is a story that wants to be told. But to answer your question, definitely The Notebook would be, I would say, one of the best examples of a twin flame dynamic in a mild way. Of course, they had to make it, in 2 hours.
Mm-hmm. Are there any tips for our listeners, for, like, anyone who's on a twin journey, like, any tips for how they can, like, work through it? Or if they're, like, starting a relationship like that, do you have any tips for them?
Well, everyone's journey is unique and everyone's is going to be different to them. So what happens with me and my journey is going to be the same thing that would possibly happen with Ashley and hers, or my cousin and hers, or your friend and his. But I guess the ultimate is that you have to love yourself. You have to love yourself. That is really ultimately what it all boils down to, because if you don't love yourself, you don't love your twin.
Wow. Because it is you yourself.
Unconditionally love your twin. You have to unconditionally love yourself, truly. So that means when they run away, you can't be like, it's because I'm this, or it's because I did this, or I'm not good enough, and that's what will happen, because we're human beings, and who wouldn't, right? You love somebody and they run away, so you're going to say, well, what did I do wrong, or what's wrong with me, right?
100%.
But that's where you have to eventually turn the page and realize that you have to love yourself no matter what. So if this person's running from you, then you have to realize they're running from you because they're hurting. and because they can't face whatever they're going through. It has nothing to do with you. And I really believe it reflects in other relationships and not just twin relationships. And we all need to learn that, is that, and I've said this a lot over the last couple of weeks, and it's true, is that hurt people hurt people.
That's facts.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah. Because people who are healed don't do that. They don't do the things that hurt people do. Mm-hmm. Because if you're whole and complete, why would you want to do anything bad or malicious towards somebody else? So that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I really love that. It all comes down to loving yourself.
It's a root of everything.
Yeah.
It's all about self-love. It's purely about self-love. And that's what, I had to, I suffered self-esteem issues ever since I was a little girl, for different reasons, like a lot of girls do, but growing up biracial, once again, in the 90s, went to an all-white Catholic school. My hair was different. I was different. My family was different. My mother's family, they ended up coming around with them rejecting my family. As a child, you don't understand why somebody's rejecting you. Mm-hmm. You think something's wrong with you, or something's wrong with, once again, we're back to, or something's wrong with your family, which there was nothing wrong with my family. Something was wrong with them for feeling that way. And my dad, like I said, he's an amazing person. And he's like one of my biggest, I would say, mentors in my entire life, just because he has such a positive energy about him, and he is just, and your father as well. And it just goes to show, like I said, once again, how good the people in our family, he has such a great, amazing energy about himself. And he's told me so many different things over the years, that have just really stuck with me, and I remember him saying that, he was devastated. My dad's a sensitive person, and for them, my mom's family, to treat him like that, like, he's such a good man, like, had a great job and is smart and everything that a family would want their daughter to be with. He was a good father. He, everything. Mm-hmm. And so to him, it was just, how could you, in a way. But he said, I always knew that I was the solution and they were the problem. Oh. And as long as I knew that, he said, then I was okay. He's like, I knew that what we were doing wasn't wrong. They were wrong.
Wow. I love that.
I know. Wow. Oh my gosh.
And we all come from amazing, or it's just our family, man. Yeah. We all come from amazing people. Mm-hmm. And of course, that's why we're all amazing.
Yeah.
Agreed. And my mother, we have a different dynamic, but like I said in the beginning of the podcast, she's just an amazing soul. And now that I'm my age and I can look back and just, like I said, understand more and just see that, like I said, and she was chastised for having love in her soul and for being a better, for loving people, for loving somebody unconditionally, and for not being stuck up in hateful, backwards mindsets. She was chastised and put down for that. And she chose the high road. And many people can't do that. And, she was a special soul from day one. I know she was. I know she came here, and that's why I am who I am as well. So, yeah.
Even the story about your parents is mirroring our parents' story, too.
Oh.
Like, our mother was disowned because of race issues. And that's saying something, and it shows that we're definitely our parents' children, through and through.
Remember what we were saying about unconditional love?
Yeah.
When you love somebody, despite what your family says, despite of the color of their skin, despite if they're your type, despite if they do X, Y, and Z for you, that's unconditional love.
Yep.
So we manifested out of unconditional love.
Which is part of our journey.
Which is part of our purpose. And which is why I believe we are here to help other people love, however that may be.
Wow.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah.
We're here to change the world with love.
Yeah.
All of us.
Yes, we are.
And it's interesting that it's our family. It's That's what's interesting.
It's deep though, but this has been happening in our family for a very long time. Actually, from when once again, like I said, when I did Ancestry and I had a big soul, just wow, that was like that was the second one. That was second to the Twin Flame thing, was the Ancestry. I would say that just totally hit my soul in just such a crazy way. But going back, we had a biracial couple that was enslaved. One side was, but the other wasn't. They were really a black and white couple, and they were together. And I don't know their story, but I can't even imagine. This has been happening to our family for a long time.
Yeah.
It's very interesting to me.
Yeah, we were talking about that before, like how it's always been like different. Like all these couples, and they're all different, like ethnicities. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's nothing. Our family just was like whatever.
Yeah, our family's like whatever.
They chose love. They chose love.
Yeah.
You know, we're very blessed. We come from one thing we can say, and I will say time and time again, no family's perfect, nothing's perfect, but I believe and I know we are very blessed. We came from a lot of love. Our family has a lot of love at its roots, and we're very blessed for that.
Well, I just think about, like, it's just, I think some people find issue with, like, I don't know, children, like our parents wanting to do what they wanted to do because they didn't necessarily ever experience that level of love because things were conditional.
And that's exactly it. You know, it's generational and it's pattern. And I think that's another reason why Twin Flames are happening more now, if you want to be honest, because I think finally we're breaking those old patterns in different ways. So now because I believe Twin Flames has been happening for a long time. Like I said, I believe my great grandmother was a Twin Flame, and that's probably a whole other podcast, but she definitely was. She was actually, you know, having a quote unquote affair, but I believe it was the Twin Flame dynamic because it was also two different races. And at that time.
Yeah. At that time, it was even worse than
pure love.
Yeah.
You know? You can't help who you love. And that's back to the movies, you know, The Notebook. And I would also say, and I know you're probably just going to say because I love Leonardo, Titanic, but Titanic's also a good example. And it's it's that whole like, I'm not supposed to be with you, right? You're not what my family wants me to be with, right? Or what I always thought that I should be with. So I have to fight against this, but I can't stop being drawn to you though, right? Like in The Notebook, you know, how, you know, they met and he was the poor boy and then they always come to you like that, I believe too. It's like I said, there's always going to be some kind of something you got to get over there. Like it's never going to be like the perfect boy next door that your family always wants you to be with. That's not going to be your twin.
Wow.
That's a soulmate. That's a soulmate, okay. you know, so, you know, like I said, The Notebook, you know, I forget her name in the movie now. I'm horrible and I love her name.
Rose.
No, that's
Rose.
Titanic.
Okay. Oh, we're on The Notebook.
Yeah.
Oh, what's her name? I love that movie.
Allie?
Allie, yes. Allie.
Okay. And what's his name again?
Oh,
God. Okay. Well, you guys know who I'm talking about. Okay, so in the beginning of that movie, you know, she's the rich girl and he's the poor boy, and they meet, and her parents are like, oh my God, absolutely, you cannot be with this person. You know, he's has no job, he works in the field or whatever he did, and you know, you are to marry a rich man that's could take care of you, just like whatever, you know. And then so she ran, right? She said, I can't do this because this is what my family wants me to do, and you know. And remember that point where she ran and he went his separate way and she went his separate way, but they could not stop thinking about each other. They could not stop up, you know, and then it went all the way to when she was about to get married, remember? And she saw that and we knew that she was still on his mind. But then that was like when you really realized that, and she went back. And so that's a total twin flame dynamic, you know, summed up in a 2-hour movie. And Titanic's the same. The man that you have the perfect man over here, right? That your mom wants you to be with, and he has all this money, he's a steel tycoon, and he doesn't take care of you, and you never have to do anything for the rest of your life, and perfect life, and perfect kids, and blah, 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 right? This is what everybody wants, right? But then, this is what I should want, right? And what I love about Titanic is that part where, one of my favorite parts of the whole movie, is when Rose says, outside I look a certain way, and everything's perfect. I have this perfect fiance and I have this perfect life and everybody envies me. But inside, I'm screaming.
Ooh. We felt that way before. I felt that way before a lot.
And that screaming was silenced by the most unexpected person who was an immigrant who had nothing. Like he didn't have 2 pennies to rub together, and she's this rich girl getting ready to marry a tycoon, a steel tycoon. But but the feeling that she's getting with Jack, she can't run from. She can't deny. And their story ended sadly, and so did Romeo and Juliet, and that's just like the worst case scenario. We don't want your journey to end like Romeo and Juliet on this any cycle.
Or like Titanic.
Titanic's better.
Let's all shoot for the Notebook ending, guys. Let's all shoot for that.
They're all sad, but yeah. So.
But it's interesting, like the Notebook, they are separated for a while, but then they come back together. Like that's interesting. Mm-hmm. But it's if you are on a twin flame journey and you don't end up coming into union, like you just get tired of it, like that's just a part of the journey too, I feel.
It is.
Maybe because you already played out what you had to learn in this life for now, and you move on to your soulmate or a karmic or whatever.
Yeah.
The next lesson.
Correct. And you have to be healed from it, and you have to just know what it was, and you have to love your person still unconditionally and not be like resentful, because then you're just gonna be resentful towards yourself, and then you're gonna get on the same old cycle again. You have to realize that I guess that it wasn't meant to be in this life, and whatever lessons we learned was for whatever. And I don't know. I'm only 32. I'm only in the middle of this, probably my journey. So who knows what will happen? Do I believe that me and him will get back together and we'll be together again? Definitely. Mm-hmm. Whether it be in this life or the next, though, yeah. I guess you can say. But absolutely, we'll be together again, and absolutely, he's my twin. I have no doubt about it. I know he is at this point. 5 years later after discovering, and I absolutely know. But you have to, once again, and self-love comes down to this as well, and this is why I'm where I'm at now, is that karmic energies and bad energies are going to test your relationship and are going to test you, no matter if you're in a twin flame relationship or not, but especially if you are. And you sometimes have to make a decision that you don't want those energies around you, and that you want to walk away because you love yourself enough to know that if you're around and you're just letting everything go status quo and everything like that, once again, like you were saying, you're not going to be able to grow, and they're not going to be able to get rid of whatever karmic situation they might have around them. And do you want to keep that energy around you, or do you want to separate and be able to love yourself? Because just like anything else in manifestation and everything, you have to let go. You can't be holding on for dear life. It's just, and you want to. And believe me, when I was in the beginning, I would kick and scream and do it everything. It wasn't good. He brought out a lot in me because of the passion and the feeling that I never had before. And I thought that's what I had to do.
Yeah. It's interesting. Mm-hmm.